Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show.
Welcome back to the Jeff Crilley Show. This is Sarah Crilley guest hosting today. And my guest today is Joseph Lynch, who goes by Joe. And I'm going to read a little bit of this book overview because I just think it's so beautiful and captivating. It's not easy starting a new career. It's further complicated when the man you turn to for advice, your father, is suffering from dementia, leaving his short-term memory as crippled as some of the combat planes he once piloted. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I
So,
appreciate it.
Finding Dad is the book that you've written.
Yes.
And
yeah.
tell us the story behind the story.
Well, when I got out of college, I suspected that I would have an adult relationship with my father, and he would give me great advice, and we'd be good pals. And what I discovered when I got home was that in the time that I'd been gone, he had actually contracted dementia. It's a slow, steady process. But I had wanted to get into healthcare, and I wanted to talk to him about the best way to do that. And he couldn't remember 5 minutes ago, but he could remember 1944 like it was yesterday. And I found that fascinating, and I stumbled upon a plan to extract lessons from him by asking him about his storied past. And I didn't know how storied it was until I took the time to sit down with him and really connect with him in those early days of my career. And I quickly realized that the stories he was telling me were from a time when he was the same age that I was, asking him these questions. So here I am, 22 years old, asking Dad for advice, and he's telling me stories about when he was 22 years old. And our lives were vastly different, let's just say that.
Absolutely.
I was trying to get going professionally in Dallas, Texas, and he was flying F-4U Corsairs off of aircraft carriers in the South Pacific with
Incredible.
Japanese pilots in their Zeros chasing him and trying to shoot him down.
It really puts life in perspective. When
It really does. It
you're a college
absolutely
student.
does. As I said, I stumbled upon the plan, and as time went on, I came to cherish the time that we had together. I looked forward to another sit down with him and another story, and he began to enjoy it as well. And it's funny, I almost feel like we kind of broke through some of the short term, because at one point in the book I say that I sat down with him and he said, "Well, let's pick up the story."
Wow.
And I said, "You mean the story of you?" And he laughed.
And during this time, you're writing the story in private. And tell me more about, so did you know as you're having these moments with him that you're definitely going to write a book? Or tell me about that journey that you went through.
No, I didn't have any idea what I was going through. The other contrasting side of those stories is me and my professional career starting out. And I had some very colorful bosses. I wrote about those in the book. At the time, I thought those were funnier. I thought nobody in their professional life goes through this sort of thing. I got to write this down. And only after my father had passed away did I realize that it was the stories that he was telling me about his past that were leveling out my life, dealing with these crazy individuals that I was being forced to work with. And that's when I had the idea, well, I need to layer these two in. And at the time that I had that revelation and started writing it, I had no idea how I was going to do that. And I think what I came back to was just the contrasting of our two lives.
Wow, it sounds to me like a movie. I can't wait to read your book. And you can find it on Amazon, Finding Dad, from Joseph Lynch, our author here. And I want to know more about just you had this story to share about your dad, and then you're intertwining it with what was going on in your life. Can you give us a little sneak peek of what was going on in your life? And as you're feeling comforted through, gosh, Dad went through so much. How could I possibly be so stressed out with what I'm going through?
Well, what I was going through was an alcoholic boss who I had a great job. I was traveling around the country, and I ended up in the home health care business, which was a wonderful place to be. And I was in the home care business for 20. Actually, I'm still technically in it. But I'm on the mergers and acquisition side. But as an operator, I was in that business for 25 years. And so I was learning about the elderly through my job, and I was learning about the elderly through my father. The funny stories at the beginning of the book, those shift into me starting my own company after his death. And there was a second gentleman that came into my life as he was one of my best friend's fathers, and he became a mentor to me. In fact, he was standing at the back of the church when I walked out after my dad's funeral, and I felt at the time that it was God passing the torch, because he was standing there waiting for me, and he ended up becoming a investor in my company and a mentor to me until my company took care of him through his dying days.
Wow.
And so the one common theme in the book, and I don't mean to make this sound negative or a downer, but there's a lot of funerals, because when you're in the business of taking care of the elderly, guess what? Time waits for nobody.
It is. It's the harsh reality of it.
It is.
I'm so glad that you wrote this story and sharing with us the story behind the story. How has your family received this?
They've loved it. It's been I have a very large family, and my dad's roots are actually on the East Coast, and it's been interesting to see the reaction from them, because they're folks that I don't see as much because of geographical issues, and they have been fantastic, as has my family locally. Everybody's just very supportive.
Absolutely. And you've been able to capture those treasure moments, and they'll be able to read from generations to come. I think that's so fantastic. Again, my guest right now is Joe Lynch with the Finding Dad book, and you can find it on Amazon. It's available to order right now. And I do want you to, for those listening and driving right now and thinking, gosh, I have a story that I want to share, give us some advice about those aspiring authors.
I used to read stories about people that would teach you how to write a book, and I always knew I wanted to write a book, and they always said write a page a day, and frankly, I didn't have the time to even do that at certain times in my life. I think the main thing to do is just start writing. I wrote so much that I didn't use in the book, and it was nice to have material to pull from. And the people that I've told lots of folks after I released the book who said, "Well, why didn't you tell us you were writing the book?" I said, because I didn't want to be one of those people that was going to write a book, because everybody's going to write a book, and I just didn't want to be one of those people. I wanted to actually write it and then say, look, I did write a book. And so I don't know that I have any specific advice other than to say start writing. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You don't have to write 5 pages a day or 1 page a day. If you write a sentence a day, eventually you'll have something. But you got to write. You got to just sit down and write about what you're passionate about. I think everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a colorful past in some form or fashion. It's up to the author to put it in a way that makes sense.
And two, when you're sharing those treasured moments with your dad, and again, the title of the book is Finding Dad, did you have kind of an outline of where you were going, or you were just writing as it came to you?
I knew the basic outline, and in my head. I did not have an outline on paper, and that's probably why it took me so long. It took me, I wrote the first passages of this book, again, from the funny work stories in the mid-'90s, and I picked those up after my father's death in 1999. And it really came together when my company that I owned at the time, we acquired another company in Houston, and I had to be there so much that I found myself in a hotel room, and I said, you can only work out so much, and you can only watch so much TV. I better be productive, so I wrote then. And it really was not an outline on paper, though.
Very, very good. Again, my guest right now, Joe Lynch with Finding Dad. You can find this book on Amazon, and I'm really excited to read it. And so as you're writing that book, and also at the very ending, did you know that was going to be the ending, or maybe there's another book in you that you want to continue on?
I really would love to write another book, and it's something that I enjoy doing, and I actually have about 3 of them in the works right now.
You do?
But I don't have a finished product yet, so but no, I enjoy writing. It's something that's a lot of fun. This book has been a bit of a catharsis to get all this out, and I think on the next one I might like to dabble in fiction, so I don't have to, so I don't have so many constraints on me.
Oh, fantastic! Tell me a little bit more about what is kind of the inspiration for those fiction books.
Just my past. As I said, I think everybody's got a colorful past. I have a lot of interesting friends and the things we've been through and the things we've done, and that would be my inspiration.
That sounds
my friends and my family, of course.
Great inspiration. Kevin, do you have a book in you?
Maybe someday at this juncture. I'm probably not yet, but we'll see.
I know we have just a minute left, and in closing, I do want to encourage those aspiring authors, just because of your story, and especially to capture those treasured moments for the family. I think that couldn't be a better way to really capture everything and have it in a book form. And also, you can have those books on audiobook, which is pretty cool.
When is Sarah Crilley's first book coming out? That's what I'm
need to write one. Thanks for reminding me, Kevin.
Yeah, you need to get on that.
I think my son would be a lot of inspiration to write some kind of a traveling Caleb story. So thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate you. Coming up, don't go away. We have the Dallas Junior Chamber. They're back to share why they are the area's young professionals destination. Don't go away.
More of The Jeff Crilley Show coming up.